cowpea. Now we'll be looking at yam. The botanical name for yam is Dioscorea species. That is, we have different varieties. We have different varieties. The important varieties of species grown in Nigeria, we have the white yam with a botanical name of Dioscorea rotundata. We have the water yam that has a botanical name, as Dioscorea alata. We have area yam, which has a botanical name of Dioscorea bovifera. And then we have the trifoliate yam, which has a botanical name of Dioscorea dumentorum. And then we have the yellow yam, which has a botanical name of Dioscorea cayensis. Those are the varieties that we are having in Nigeria. For the climatic requirements, yam requires a temperature range of about 25 degrees Celsius to 30 degrees Celsius. Abundant sunshine is required for photosynthesis to take place, and it also requires an evenly distributed rain of about 1,500 to 2,000 millimeter. That is, it requires a high rainfall range of 1,500 millimeter to 2,000 millimeter. Then what is the soil requirement for yam? Yam requires a fertile, well-drained, loamy or alluvial soil for growth, for optimal growth and yield. That is, for you to have optimal yield, optimal growth, it requires a fertile, well-drained, loamy or alluvial soil. Then what is the land preparation for yam? The land is cleared of the existing vegetation. In most parts of southwest, the middle belt, and a certain part of northern Nigeria, the yam is planted on heaps. After clearing all the vegetation, that is, then you now make heaps or mounds or ridges. In the hydromorphic soils of Abakaliki in Ebonyi State, giant mounds are made for yam cultivation. But in Edo State, in Delta State, in Mo State, in Cross River and Rivers States, where the soil is soft and free draining, yam is planted on flat ground. That is, you just dig a hole and then you plant your yam. And what is the planting date for yam? This is usually from November to December in the alluvial plains, while in most other areas it is planted in March to April, soon after the first rain. But for seed yam multiple, that is, if you want to multiply seed yams, we will plant around May to June. Then what is the seed rating and then spacing for yam? One yam is planted at one seed yam or yam set per hole. That is, you don't place two together. And then the seed rating is 3 to 5 tons per hectare. It's required while planting yam. For sole cropping, we can plant it at 1 meter by 1 meter spacing. It's ideal. Whereas if the yam is intercrop with another crop, e.g. maize, spacing of 1.5 by 1.5 meter is recommended. Closer spacing generally produces higher yields per hectare, but what happens is that you'll be having smaller tubers. That is, the smaller tubers will be produced. Then what is the planting depth? This is usually between 15 centimeter to 20 centimeter, depending on the size of the yam set or yam seed. Then after you've planted, then there's need for mulching. This is the covering of the heaps or ridges with dry leaves or grass to reduce soil temperature and also conserve moisture and prevent rotting of the yam sets. That is, after you've planted, it is still during the early period of the rain, you have to do mulching so that the yam won't be destroyed by temperature, and at the same time the moisture available in the soil can be conserved. Then after you planted and then the yam has started growing, there's need for staking. This is done to hold up the yam vines to ensure adequate exposure of the leaf surface to sunlight and good yield. It is when there's enough exposure of the leaf that we can have adequate photosynthesis efficient photosynthesis, and that will lead to the production of the carbohydrates needed by the yam, and that is which results in a bigger tuber. The vines are trained up the stake so as to ensure even spreading of the vines to receive sunlight needed for photosynthesis. Now, what is the weeding requirement? The weeding should be done 3 times before harvesting so as to control pests and reduce weed competition for nutrients. You have to control the weed, that is, so as to reduce the weed competition for nutrients, space, and then also to control pests. If your field where you plant your yam is, if there are weeds there, it will harbor rodents. And once rodents invest your, that is, once they enter your farm, that is a yam farm, they would actually destroy the yams in the soil. That is the tubers being formed in the soil. Then what is the fertilizer application? Organic, that is manure or inorganic fertilizer are used to supplement nutrients in less fertile soil. An NPK fertilizer mixture of 10:20 is side raised around 15 centimeters away from the vine. That is, you make a ring 15 centimeters from the vine, that is of a ring of radius 15 centimeters from the vine, and then you apply your fertilizer. And the fertilizer is applied at the rate of 300 kilograms per hectare, and this is done 2 months after sprouting. Then what are the number of days, that is the number of months for maturity, that is the maturity period? Yam matures in 7 to 9 months, and the yield is between 5 to 18 tons per hectare for sole crop, depending on the variety and then the management. The yield is usually less if the yam is intercropped with another crop. When you intercrop, that means it's not only yam that is making use of the nutrients in the soil, which will lead to less production. Then harvesting, discussing our yam under harvesting. Harvesting is usually done manually using cutlasses to remove the tuber from the soil. That is, you use your cutlass to dig to remove the soil which surrounds the tuber, and then you will now remove the tuber from the soil. Harvesting of yam should be done very carefully to avoid bruising or cutting into the tubers, which may predispose them to agents of biodeterioration. Then the processing. After harvesting, the tubers are cleaned by removing the roots and adding materials that have the soil attached to them. And then, how are they being stored? How is yam being stored? Yam is stored by tying them in bands. These bands are shaded, that is, they are not being directly exposed to the sunlight, but free movement of air through them is ensured. Regular inspection of the tied tubers is essential to identify spoiled ones, which should be removed. That is, you have to be inspecting the band to identify the spoiled ones so you can remove them so that there won't be contamination. Then what is yam being used for? The utilization of yam. Yam is steamed or boiled and eaten, pounded into pounded yam, and eaten with soup. If you are eating your yam, you can eat it with egg, that is the same yam. It's also processed into flour, which is used to prepare instant pounded yam, amala, alibo, depending on the method of preparation. Now, the next crop we'll be looking at is cocoa, which is a cash crop. It has a botanical name of Theobroma cacao. Cocoa is an important beverage crop used in the preparation of many food drinks like Milo. We have a Bonvita, Ovaltine. They use cocoa in producing them, and other beverages that we might actually have to mention. It belongs to a very large family called the Sterulicae, which belongs it belongs to a family called Stachylinaceae, where the varieties include the common varieties of cocoa commonly grown in Nigeria are the Amazon, we have the Lunedo, we have the Criollo, we have the Trinitario, and a hybrid which is of higher yielding than others. That is, the hybrid actually make use of the quality properties of others, and then removing their defects in combination. So by the time you combine all those the positive characteristics of those local ones, we have an hybrid. Now, what is the climatic requirement for cocoa? Cocoa requires a higher rainfall of between 1,200 mm to 3,000 mm, which should be well distributed over a greater period part of the year. The temperature requirement ranges from 21 degrees Celsius to 33 degrees Celsius. And high relative humidity is essential for the growth of cocoa, although cocoa does not tolerate waterlogging and excessive dry wind. That is, cocoa requires high relative humidity, but it does not tolerate that the soil should be waterlogged, and at the same time, it does not perform optimally in excessive dry wind. What is the soil requirement for cocoa? Cocoa is a low altitude crop which thrives better in a well-drained, deep sandy loam soil or heavy clay loam soil with slightly acidic or neutral pH. That is, the pH value must either be neutral or slightly acidic, that is between maybe around 6.5 and 7. Now, what's the land preparation for cocoa? Cocoa is grown in areas with virgin or thick secondary forest. The first step in land preparation is slashing of the undergrowth, followed by selective felling of the trees. However, some of the tall trees are left to provide shade for the cocoa seedling. Cocoa seedling at the initial point needs shades. It doesn't need much direct sunlight. The trash is usually left on the land